Hello, welcome back to Casablaga. For this episode, I'm covering another one that's nostalgic to me. This one is, I wanted to start covering musicals, and I chose this for my first musical. Even though some people are like, that's not a musical, it's not a traditional musical. This is Pink Floyd The Wall. So I grew up with this movie. Like, my dad would play it all the time. He had the VHS, and he would just play it all the time. And, yeah, it gave me nightmares. Like, literally, I grew up, like, all my nightmares were just Pink Floyd The Wall. Like, the imagery from this movie. So I grew up terrified of it. And the funny thing is, when I got older, I'm now, like, very fond of this movie. I owned it on DVD a few years ago, and I was trying to find it on Blu-ray, but it wasn't released on Blu-ray. When I bought it on DVD, a few years ago, I posted on Facebook, and I said, yay, I got it on DVD. Too bad it's not on Blu-ray. And I guess somebody found it on Blu-ray. I still don't know who it is. I came home yesterday and I had a package, and somebody had sent me a Blu-ray copy of Pink Floyd The Wall. It was in Spanish. The case and the menus were in Spanish. The return address was from Spain, and then I looked into it, and the Blu-ray copy of Pink Floyd The Wall was only released in Spain. And I don't know why, but hey, it exists. And yeah, it like the menus were in Spanish, but it's not that big of a deal. I hit play, and then it had subtitles in Spanish turned on automatically, and it's really easy to just turn that off. And on like the Blu-ray menu, I was playing it on my PS5, so I just opened up the menu and turned it off. It's kind of like how you turn off captions on Netflix or YouTube. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. And then I watched it. It's the clearest I've ever seen it. It was amazing. Yeah, I decided halfway through, I was like, yeah, I'm making this my next movie that I cover on the podcast. So, yeah, here we are. So basically, it was released in 1982 and was directed by Alan Parker. It was based on the 1979 Pink Floyd album by the same name, The Wall. And the screenplay was written by Roger Waters, he's the lead singer and the vocal. He's the lead singer and the vocalist. He can be both. He is the lead singer and the bass player for Pink Floyd. And he wrote the screenplay. And the film stars Bob Geldof. Every time I see this name, I think Gandalf, but that's not right. He plays Pink, who's... Okay, so the plot of this, I never really picked up on. I read the plot on Wikipedia, and I'm like, how are you supposed to gather that from what they give you? But I guess it makes sense in retrospect. This is the first time I've seen it since I read the plot a couple years ago. Like, after I saw it on DVD, I was like, that's as confusing as I remember. It's just a bunch of random visuals. Moving on. Well, like a year or so ago, I was bored and I looked it up on Wikipedia. There's the plot synopsis. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. And then when I was watching it yesterday, I was like, oh, I totally see that. I can totally see how that makes sense. I don't know if most people pick up on the story, and I'm just missing it because I grew up with it, and so I'm just so used to it, I don't actually pay attention. It's like, oh, it's that part. Oh, it's this scene again. So, yeah, the story is Pink is a rock star, And actually, I'm just going to read the Wikipedia. Pink is a depressed rock star who appears motionless and expressionless while remembering his father. Decades prior, his father was killed defending Anzio Beachhead during World War II. I did pick up on the fact that the soldier at the beginning was the father of the little kid. That one was made obvious, especially whenever there's a scene when the kid goes into the parents' room and puts on a uniform, and it like makes it like painfully obvious that it's the same guy, because he's like, the kid's looking at himself in the mirror and it keeps turning into the soldier who died. It's like, I wonder what that's supposed to mean. Is it the father? No, it's completely unrelated. Young Pink discovers relics of his father's... that's father's missionary service and death. So, yeah. Apparently, Pink grows up, gets married, and he discovers that he finds his wife cheating on him. And it's not until 40 minutes in we actually get to the wall. And growing up, I kept hearing people saying, "Oh yeah, the wall's a metaphor for the Berlin Wall." Yeah, that's what it means. It's very clear that's what it means. And so my whole life, up until I saw it in, I think it was like 2020. I think that's when I got the DVD. Up until then, that's what I believed. Because I saw it when I was a kid, I didn't understand anything, and so that was my first time seeing it as an adult, and I'm like, why do people think that represents the Berlin Wall? It's even before I read the Wikipedia plot, I understood that it was like a metaphor. Like, he puts up a wall to defend himself. It's like a defense mechanism. People do that all the time. They build a wall up to like a mental wall. And yeah, and that's a big part of this movie that I guess a lot of people don't seem to understand. It's about, because they're like, oh, it's about World War II. It's about school for some reason. It's about this. It's about that. Well, it's not about those things. It just includes those things. In my opinion, the movie is about like mental illness and addiction. That's what I gathered from it. So, yeah, that's... Everyone sees the same thing and comes up with 1,000 different interpretations. So, you might listen to this and think, what? No, what the heck? Where'd you get that from? From watching it. Like 1,000 times growing up. So, like, I've seen it so many times. And then, yeah... I can't even say how many times I've seen it. And so something that I think is really cool is like the ending. Whenever like one of my favorite scenes has always been one of my favorite songs from this album. I listen to Pink Floyd The Wall, the album, all the time. Like, in fact, ironic, it was like complete coincidence. I was listening to it whenever I opened the package. I was like, what's this package? I was listening to Waiting for the Worms, which is my favorite song on the album. I was listening to that song, and I opened the package, and I pulled out the Blu-ray, and I'm like, what are the odds? And during that scene, a lot of people interpret that scene as like, oh, he's Hitler. He's trying to be Hitler. It's evil. It's why are we supposed to be supporting this guy? And maybe that's the where like his mind went to, because like whenever I am getting all over the place. I also got distracted because I was talking about the actors in the movie. I only recognized two names. I didn't recognize the guy that played Pink. I know he's an actual rock star in real life, and he does like other movies and stuff. But I did I didn't recognize him in the movie. When I saw the credits, I was like, Bob Hoskins. He was in here? He was the rock manager. The scene where they bust into his room and he's like unconscious and unresponsive, and they try to bring him back. Bob Hoskins plays his manager. And then the another name I recognized, Ginny Wright. She's from Saint Elsewhere and Young Guns 2, and she plays the sex worker that he like tears up his apartment. Like, neither of these actors I actually recognized while watching the movie. I'm just thinking, oh, it's another no-name. Actually, everybody in this movie has a Wikipedia page. So, yeah. I went through and I looked. I'm like, I don't recognize most of these people. I was like, I recognize the name Ginny Wright, but I was like, how do I know this name? I know this name. But I've seen Saint Elmo's Fire. Did I say Saint Elsewhere before? Saint Elmo's Fire. I've seen that, and I've seen Young Guns too. Both of those I've seen growing up a lot, so that's probably where I saw her name. Anyway, during that scene, the Waiting for the Worms, they're doing the marching, the waiting, and the marching hammers. That is like his hallucinations, like building up to the point where he doesn't want to go, and it literally ends with him screaming, "Stop!" And he's like, he's in a bathroom, and he's like, and it doesn't say it in the movie, but I know this because it's written in the plot. He decides right then he doesn't want to live in hallucination and delusion anymore. So that's whenever his mind does the trial, and he goes on trial for showing feelings of an almost human nature, and and his sentence is to be exposed before his peers, and then the order comes to tear down the wall, which it doesn't show what happens to him after, but I imagine, like, if there was a sequel, this isn't something you make a sequel to, but, like, if the story continued, I think it would be him, like, getting help, getting treatment, recovering, that sort of thing. So, like, the tear down the wall, like, it was a good thing for him. So, like, the judge makes it sound like a bad thing. Tear down the wall, and like that chanting of tear down the wall, it's actually kind of haunting in a way. Alright, something I want to talk about on this is there's something that I now consider to be like a companion piece to Pink Floyd The Wall. Like, I can't watch it without watching this other thing. And everyone hates it for some reason. I'm a huge fan of Nostalgia Critic, and I've been watching his videos since the beginning. And I know, like, a lot of people hate him now, but, like, I'm still a huge fan. He did a review of Pink Floyd The Wall, I think back in 2019, I believe. And where it had Corey Taylor of Slipknot as the Pink character. And they had basically like recreated it in a way. Like, I like when they do it. To me, that's the best episode. They've done a lot of really cool like skit episodes, and they've done a few musical episodes. I think the first one they ever did was the Moulin Rouge, and that one I think was the best. And I saw a video recently, it was like a month or so ago, where someone was talking about how like Nostalgia Critics graphics have just gone downhill. That showed a clip of like his first videos with like the square video, and like it looked like it's shot on a potato, and it sounds like it was recorded on a potato, and and whenever the guy narrating the video says his quality has gone down, it showed a clip of Doug Walker walking through a wheat field from that with the sun behind him. And I'm like, that's like one of the I don't want to say cinematically, like, you want to talk about bad graphics, that's a terrible shot to use. Like, granted, like, his jokes don't always land, and they're not always funny. They're kind of cringy, but I think that's kind of the appeal. Like, they're, like, cringy funny, but not everything. I don't like everything. I'm not going to go into a deep dive on Nostalgia Critic, but this review in particular, everyone says is his worst, but I don't know why. I think it's its best. And one thing I like about it is it starts off making you think, oh, they're tearing this thing apart. They hate this movie. And then at the end, during the trial, like, it looks like they're ending the review. Like, okay, this is the end. And then they do the trial, and it's like the trial of the critic. And it's like a whole different review, because they basically recreate the trial scene with, like, fully animated characters in a level that I've never seen for Nostalgia Critic. Usually they do, like, the 2D animated on screen, and they're, like, very, very Microsoft Paint. And this is, like, fully CG, realistic looking characters, and it's, like, really cool. I like it. And then people say it's his worst looking one. And at the very end, like, I like when Corey Taylor's like, you're just going to end it there? Well, that's when the movie did. That's a why don't we? Well, what did you think about the movie? Well, since the movie leaves everything ambiguous, I thought we would. It's a review! Yeah. And then that's whenever Critic was like, I like it fine. So he did like it. They do make some points in that, but, like, not real. I think they misunderstood it too, because they also continued the thing with, wait, you're just talking about high school, but then you're talking about World War II, and you're saying they're the same thing. Like, that's not what the movie's doing. It cuts from one scene to the next. It's not comparing the two. And that's like everyone has that same interpretation of the movie. Like, it's not about World War II. It's not about school. It's about the character, what he's gone through, about his, like, struggles and the mental illness, the wall he built up. And everyone misinterprets this movie. I'm probably even misinterpreting this movie. It's like, I don't know if I've ever actually seen if Roger Waters has ever done, like, here's what I meant when I wrote The Wall. It's like, it's about my love of puppy dogs. What? Yeah, I don't know. Like, there probably is no meaning. I don't know. Like, there's probably no meaning at all. He just, like, I'm gonna write. It's kind of free flow writing. Probably not. I'm sure something like that. There's some depth to it that I maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong, maybe everyone else is right. I don't know. I just know how I interpreted it. But anyway, I'm going to end this here. My next episode is going to be a TV season. It's only one season long. I want there to be a second season. It was nominated for an Emmy, and I was hoping it would win. I figured if it won, it would get a second season, but it was only nominated. It didn't win. But there's been no talks of a second season. It deserves a second season, but I'm not going to give away what it is right now. I have to watch it first. Then I can record the episode. Anyway, I'm going to end this episode here.